So, you're thinking about visiting Paris? Before you book your flights, reserve your hotel, or start imagining yourself walking around with a croissant in one hand and a coffee in the other, there's something you need to know. Paris is one of the most visited cities in the entire world, welcoming millions of tourists every year, and for good reason. It's home to some of the most famous landmarks on the planet, incredible food, beautiful streets, world-class museums, and a kind of atmosphere that's hard to find anywhere else. But here's the thing, Paris isn't exactly what social media makes it look like. Those perfect Instagram photos don't show the long lines, the crowded metro stations, the tourist traps, or the little mistakes that can completely change your trip. That's why in this video, I'm going to show you what Paris is really like in 2026, the amazing parts, the things that might surprise you, and the tips that can make your vacation unforgettable. So before you visit Paris, watch this. Let's start with the obvious, the Eiffel Tower. Yes, it's probably the first thing that comes to mind when you think about Paris, and honestly, it deserves the attention. No matter how many pictures you've seen online, standing underneath it for the first time is a completely different experience. It's much bigger than most people expect, and at night, when it begins to sparkle, the whole atmosphere changes. Hundreds of people stop walking just to watch it light up, and it's one of those moments that reminds you why Paris became famous in the first place. But here's a little tip that many tourists miss. Instead of only seeing the Eiffel Tower from directly underneath, walk over to Trocadero. It's one of the best viewpoints in the city, and if you go early in the morning, you can actually enjoy the view without thousands of people in your photos. One thing you'll quickly realize is that Paris isn't a city you should rush through. It's not about checking landmarks off a list as fast as possible. Some of the best moments happen when you're not doing anything at all. Sitting at a little cafe on a quiet street, watching people walk by, hearing musicians perform in the distance, or simply wandering without a destination often becomes more memorable than visiting another monument. That's the magic of Paris. The city somehow makes ordinary moments feel special. Of course, you're going to want to see famous places like the Arc de Triomphe and the Champs-Élysées. The Arc itself is incredibly impressive, and if you're willing to climb to the top, you'll be rewarded with one of the best panoramic views over the city. From up there, you can really appreciate how perfectly Paris was designed, with wide boulevards stretching out in every direction. As for the Champs-Élysées, it's one of the most famous shopping streets in the world. You'll find luxury stores, cafes, bakeries, and plenty of people from all over the globe. Even if shopping isn't your thing, it's worth walking down at least once just to experience the energy. Now let's talk about something that surprises almost everyone who visits Paris for the first time, the architecture. Almost every street feels beautiful. The buildings have elegant balconies, charming windows, and classic French details that make the entire city feel like a movie set. You don't have to search for beautiful places because they're everywhere. In fact, some of the prettiest photos you'll take probably won't be at famous landmarks. They'll be on quiet streets you randomly discovered while exploring. And then there's the food. Let's be honest, one of the biggest reasons people dream about Paris is because of the food. Fresh croissants, warm baguettes, buttery pastries, colorful macarons, rich hot chocolate, incredible cheese, and some of the best desserts you'll ever taste. Even something as simple as grabbing breakfast from a neighborhood bakery feels like an experience. My advice? Skip the chains whenever you can and walk into small local bakeries instead. If you see a line of locals waiting outside, that's usually a very good sign. One thing many visitors don't realize is that Paris is much bigger than it looks on a map. You can easily spend an entire day exploring one neighborhood without getting bored. Every area has its own personality. Some are elegant and luxurious, others are artistic, while some feel lively and full of cafes, bookstores, and little boutiques. That's why I always recommend leaving some free time in your itinerary. Don't schedule every hour of every day. Some of your favorite memories will probably happen when you're simply exploring with no real plan. Now, before you start thinking Paris is absolutely perfect, let's be honest, it does have its challenges. It can be crowded, especially during the summer. Some attractions have long lines, restaurants near tourist landmarks can be overpriced, and the metro can get very busy during rush hour. But if you know what to expect and plan a little ahead, these things become much easier to manage. A little preparation goes a long way. The truth is, Paris isn't a city that tries to impress you all at once. Instead, it slowly grows on you. The first day, you notice the famous landmarks. The second day, you start appreciating the little cafes and bakeries. By the third day, you're wandering through quiet streets, stopping for coffee, listening to street musicians, and realizing that the best part of Paris isn't just the Eiffel Tower, it's the feeling of being there. And trust me, we're only getting started because there are still some incredible places to explore, hidden gems most tourists never see, and a few important mistakes you'll definitely want to avoid before your trip. Now let's talk about one of the most famous museums in the world, the Louvre. Even if you've never been interested in museums before, this place is different. It's absolutely huge. In fact, if you wanted to see every single piece of art inside, it would take you days. Of course, the biggest attraction is the Mona Lisa, and yes, she's there. But here's something that surprises almost everyone. The painting is actually much smaller than people expect. You'll probably walk into the room and think, wait, that's it, and because it's so famous, it's usually surrounded by a big crowd of people trying to take the perfect photo. My advice? Take a quick picture if you want, then keep exploring. Honestly, some of the most incredible artwork in the Louvre isn't the Mona Lisa. There are giant sculptures, beautiful paintings, and amazing rooms that many people walk right past because they're only focused on one painting. After the Louvre, head over to Notre Dame. Even after everything this cathedral has been through, it's still one of the most beautiful buildings in Paris. The details are incredible, and when you stand in front of it, it's hard to believe people built something like this hundreds of years ago. The area around it is also worth exploring. You'll find little streets, bookstores, cafes, and people relaxing along the Seine River. It's the perfect place to slow down for a while. Speaking of slowing down, let's head to one of my favorite neighborhoods in Paris, Montmartre. If I could only recommend one place besides the Eiffel Tower, it would probably be this. It feels completely different from the rest of the city. The streets are smaller, the buildings are full of character, and there are artists painting outside almost everywhere you look. As you walk uphill, you'll eventually reach the Sacré-Cœur Basilica, and trust me, the view from up there is amazing. You can see rooftops stretching across almost the entire city. A lot of people grab a snack, sit on the steps, and simply enjoy the view. It's one of those places where you could easily spend a couple of hours without even realizing it. Now here's a tip that can completely change your trip. Don't spend your whole vacation running from one famous attraction to another. Some of the best places in Paris aren't famous at all. Walk down a random side street. Stop at a bakery that catches your eye. Sit at a cafe you've never heard of. Browse a little bookstore. Visit a local market. Paris is full of little surprises, and sometimes those unexpected moments become your favorite memories. Let's talk about the Seine River because this is another experience you shouldn't miss. During the day, it's beautiful, but at night it becomes something special. The bridges light up, boats slowly cruise along the water, and the city feels calm in a way that's hard to describe. If you have time, take a river cruise after sunset. It's one of the easiest ways to see many of Paris's famous landmarks all lit up at night, and it gives you a completely different view of the city. Now let's go back to the food for a second because there are a few things you have to try. First, get a fresh croissant from a local bakery in the morning. Not one from a supermarket, a real bakery. Then try a crepe from a street stand while you're walking around the city. If you have a sweet tooth, don't leave Paris without trying macarons. And if you really want to experience French food, find a small neighborhood restaurant instead of one right beside the Eiffel Tower. It'll probably cost less, taste better, and feel much more authentic. One thing that surprised me about Paris is that every neighborhood feels different. One minute you're surrounded by luxury stores and expensive hotels, and 10 minutes later you're walking through quiet streets where it feels like only locals live there. That's one of the reasons Paris never gets boring. Every day feels like you're discovering a completely different city. But before you start thinking Paris is perfect, there are a few things you definitely need to know. There are some mistakes that almost every tourist makes, a few scams you should watch out for, and some easy ways to save both time and money. Trust me, knowing these things before you arrive can make your trip so much better. So before you book that flight, let's talk about everything you should avoid. Alright, now let's talk about the things that can either make your trip amazing, or completely ruin it. First, let's talk about transportation because a lot of people think they'll just take taxis everywhere. Don't. Paris traffic can be terrible, especially during busy hours, and you'll spend way more money than you need to. Instead, use the metro. At first it might look confusing with all the different lines, but after a couple of rides, you'll get the hang of it. It's fast, affordable, and it can take you almost anywhere in the city. Just keep an eye on your belongings because, like any big city, crowded trains can attract pickpockets. Speaking of pickpockets, this is probably the biggest thing people worry about before visiting Paris. The truth is, Paris is generally a safe city, but you still need to pay attention, especially around popular tourist spots like the Eiffel Tower, the Louvre, the Champs-Élysées, and busy metro stations. Keep your phone and wallet in a zipped pocket or a crossbody bag, and don't leave your backpack open. Most tourists never have any problems, but staying aware is always a smart idea. Another thing to watch out for is tourist scams. You might see people trying to hand you a bracelet, asking you to sign a petition, or offering you something for free. Here's the trick, it's usually not free. They'll often ask you for money afterward. The easiest thing to do is smile, say, "No, thank you," and keep walking. Don't stop, and don't feel bad. They do this all day, every day, and they're used to people saying no. Now let's talk about money because Paris has a reputation for being expensive. And yes, it can be. But it doesn't have to be. One of the easiest ways to save money is by eating breakfast at a local bakery instead of a fancy cafe every morning. A fresh croissant and coffee can cost just a few euros, and honestly, it'll probably be one of the best breakfasts you have. Another great way to save is by walking. Paris is one of the most walkable cities in the world, and every street has something interesting to see. Instead of paying for transportation all day, you can discover hidden cafes, beautiful buildings, and little parks just by exploring on foot. Here's another mistake people make: they try to do everything in one weekend. Paris isn't the kind of city you should rush through. If you spend your whole trip running from one attraction to the next, you'll miss what makes the city so special. Leave some free time in your schedule. Sit by the Seine with a pastry. Relax in a park. Watch the world go by from a cafe. Sometimes doing less actually gives you a better experience. Now, when should you visit? Honestly, every season has something different to offer. Spring is beautiful because flowers are blooming and the weather is comfortable. Summer has longer days and lots of energy, but it's also the busiest time of the year. Fall is one of my favorites because the parks turn beautiful shades of orange and red, the weather is cooler, and there are usually fewer tourists. Winter is colder, but if you visit around Christmas, the lights and decorations make the city feel magical. And here's one more tip that most people don't hear before they visit. Wake up early. Seriously. If you get out before most tourists, you'll see a completely different side of Paris. The streets are quieter, the bakeries are just opening, and famous places like the Eiffel Tower or the Louvre feel so much more peaceful. Plus, you'll get much better photos without hundreds of people in the background. By now, you've probably noticed that Paris isn't just about famous landmarks. It's the little moments that make you fall in love with the city. It's finding a tiny bakery with the best croissant you've ever tasted. It's hearing live music while walking along the river. It's watching the Eiffel Tower sparkle at night with people cheering around you. Those are the memories you'll still be talking about years later. So, after everything we've talked about, there's only one question left. Is Paris actually worth visiting in 2026, or is it just another place that's become too popular? Let's answer that once and for all. So, after everything we've talked about, is Paris actually worth visiting in 2026? My answer is a big yes. Is it perfect? No. Is it crowded? Sometimes. Is it expensive? It definitely can be. But honestly, those aren't the things you'll remember when your trip is over. What you'll remember is seeing the Eiffel Tower sparkle for the first time. You'll remember eating a warm croissant from a little bakery on a quiet street. You'll remember walking along the Seine as the sun goes down, hearing music in the distance, and realizing you're actually in Paris. Those are the moments that stay with you. One of my favorite things about Paris is that every day feels different. One morning you're standing in front of one of the most famous landmarks in the world. A few hours later you're relaxing in a tiny cafe with a coffee and a pastry. Then you're exploring little streets that aren't even on your travel list. That's what makes Paris so special. The famous attractions are incredible, but it's the little moments in between that make you fall in love with the city. If you're planning your first trip, my biggest piece of advice is simple. Don't try to do everything. Paris isn't a city you can fully experience in 2 or 3 days. Pick a few places you really want to see, then leave time to simply explore. Walk without looking at your phone every 5 minutes. Stop when you see a bakery that smells amazing. Sit in a park for a while. Watch people go by. Those unexpected moments are often the best part of the trip. And don't worry if everything doesn't go perfectly. Maybe it rains. Maybe you get lost for a little while. Maybe your favorite cafe is full. That's all part of traveling. Sometimes the best memories come from the things you never planned. You might discover a beautiful little street, a hidden bookstore, or the best crepe you've ever had just because you took the wrong turn. So, should you visit Paris in 2026? Absolutely. If you love history, beautiful buildings, amazing food, museums, cafes, and cities that are full of life, I think you'll have an incredible time. Just go with the right expectations. Paris isn't perfect, but that's exactly what makes it feel real. It's a city that slowly grows on you, and before you know it, you'll probably already be thinking about your next visit. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to hit the like button because it really helps the channel grow. If you love travel and want to discover more amazing destinations around the world, make sure you subscribe and turn on notifications so you never miss a new adventure. And now I want to hear from you. Have you already been to Paris, or is it still on your travel bucket list? Let me know in the comments below. Thanks so much for watching, and as always, keep exploring, keep traveling, and I'll see you in the next video.